Hello and welcome to Unit 8. In Unit 8, we are looking at different types of graphs, which are ways to kind of analyze data. Now, some of these graphs you may have seen before, some may be brand new. So the notes go into a lot of detail. If you don't need all the notes, that's fine. If you know what you're doing, that's great. But if you're not sure, you can look at these notes and then ask your teacher for help. Um, these videos are going to be a little bit different. Ms. Shaw left really detailed notes, so I'm just going to kind of walk you through those notes. Again, for some of it might be easier just to have your teacher show you one-on-one. So in 8.1, we're talking about bar graphs. A bar graph can also be called a bar chart. So a bar chart is a graph with rectangular bars. Each bar's length or height is proportional to the bar's represented values, which basically means the length or height of the bar is equal to the quantity within that category. A bar graph is usually going to compare different quantities. Bar graphs can be plotted vertically or horizontally. Vertically meaning up and down, horizontally meaning left and right. But most of the time you see them vertically. The x-axis represents the categories. The y-axis represents the value of those categories. So when we say x-axis, we're talking about the horizontal axis. So this would be the x-axis. And then the y-axis would be our vertical axis. So when she says the x-axis represents the category, if you look horizontally, that's where all the different categories are. And then vertically, you see what percentage it is. Now, it doesn't have to be percents. It can be just regular numbers, whatever, depending on how the data is given. So if you continue to look down, it says a bar graph is useful for looking at a set of data and making comparisons. So as you can see in the bar graph above, we can compare different types of heating and cooling units, electronics, all those kind of things. So the next thing we're going to look at is how to construct a bar graph. So again, the notes will be very detailed. Look through them as you need to, but feel free to just follow along. So remember that a bar graph is useful for comparing facts. The bars provide a visual display for comparing the quantities. So let's look at the steps to construct or create a bar graph. So here's our example. The example is the birth rate of several babies was recorded as shown in the table. And we're going to construct a vertical bar graph to visually display this. So it says step one is find the range in values. What units are used? What is the greatest value? What is the least value? So for us, the unit is pounds. Our greatest value is 10.5. Our least value is 6.2. So we need to keep that in mind. Step number 2 says determine the scale. Using graph paper, start with one box equaling 1 unit. What is the length or height of the longest bar? Will it fit? If not, change the scale and try to get. So as we said, our highest weight is 10.5. So when we make our bar graph, we need to make sure that we can fit 10.5. So on step 2 here, we have 10.5, our highest value, and then we also have 6.9 labeled on there as well. It says the scale must start at 0, so you can see in this bottom corner we have 0 there. The vertical scale for us is going to range from 0 to 12.5. It does not have to be this way, you just need to make sure you have enough room to fit your highest value. Step number 3 says label the graph. It says mark each rectangle along the scale, label the marks by the units they represent, then decide how wide each bar should be. How much space we allow between each bar. So if you look, we've labeled on the y-axis, we've got the weight in pounds, and on the x-axis, we've got the different babies' names, so those are our categories. And then if you look, all of the weights are loaded in here, and they just kind of, if you notice, you just want to work your way along the y-axis to see where your next value goes. Then step 4 is to draw the bars, and you need to make sure that you're following the scale that you made on the left. And then so step 4b is to look at 2 bars that are close to each other and make sure that they show an accurate difference. So when you draw your bars, it'll look like this. Again, we've got weight as the category, weight labeled on the y-axis, and then the names on the x-axis. And then we just draw bars and fill them in, going up to the height that matches up with the weights of the babies. If you look, these are all the same width. They should be the same width, they're just going to have different heights. And then the last step is to give your graph a title. In this case, it's the birth weight of babies. So just to review the procedures for constructing a bar graph, the first step is to find the range of values. The second one is to determine the scale. A scale is what you're going to put over on the y-axis. Step 3 is label the graph. So that's what are you going to name the y-axis and the x-axis. Actually draw your bars. Your bars should have the same width, just different heights. And then give the graph a title. All right, so that's it for the 8.1 notes. You'll practice these for your homework. And again, if you have questions, just feel free to ask your teacher.